The federal government generated over 6 billion naira as revenue from rail transport in 2021. The National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), who disclosed this in its rail transportation data, said the figure rose to 137% on a year-to-year from 2.55 billion in 2020. Given the above figure, it is not out of place to say that rail transport system has an economic impact on our national development. Around the world, rail transport has been described as one of the safe and sustainable form of transport. In Nigeria, the case is not different. However, the need for enhanced safety measures in and around our railways have been pointed out as cases of avoidable mishaps occur. In 2018, 10 people lost their lives while others got badly injured at the railway crossing in Agege, Lagos, following a crash involving a tricycle, a commercial bus, and a train. In 2019, an Abule-Egba-bound train crashed a tricyclist and his 4 passengers in Lagos. In Kano, 2 persons were crushed to death by a train in 2019. And yesterday, an Abuja-bound train crashed a lady, sadly one of our own, along the Kubwa rail track. The list goes on. One would ask, are there no warning signs around these railways, keeping people away from possible oncoming trains? Are there regulations aimed at protecting people from dangers of a moving train? These are some of the issues the guests on Nigeria Today will be analyzing. I am your carrier, Clinton. Welcome to Nigeria Today. In the studio to give more insight on safety around railways is Mani Ochuboju. Mani is a lawyer and a transport consultant. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ukeria. It's my pleasure. Good evening, viewers.
You heard the introduction. How would you describe the Nigerian rail system?
The description and the introduction is appropriate. It is right. Yes, the Nigerian railway system contributes significantly to the economy of the country, and it can still do more. It can still do a lot more. And yes, there have been increasing concern about safety on the rail lines, particularly with the increasing deaths, accidents that we are having on an increasing basis. How do we describe it? It is significantly insufficient, I'm afraid. The right of the operators and the track managers to place signals, red lights, warnings and alarms and gate on crossways is imperative. It's a legal obligation on the rail operators and the rail track managers to place signals, red lights, and even barriers. Barriers as a gate, or you may want to call it roadblock. It's automated. When the rails are coming, there's a sensor that tells the rail signaling system to put on the red light and to put on the alarm. And they block the road, preventing anybody crossing those level crossing. Besides the rail operators, the controllers of the road, let's say for example in Lagos State, if they have the right of way over the approaching road to the rail cross, they too must place signals, sufficient signals, and in some cases their own gate too. In civilized countries, you see 2 gates, so that the person managing the road has a gate, the rail operator has his own gate. So you see 2 gates before you approach the railway crossing. So it's a joint and several liability of those that control the road and those that control the rail, that they must have efficient signaling system, efficient warning system. The warning should ring like an alarm, like a bell, telling those around that a train is coming. And there should be flashing red lights to indicate the severity of the danger or the hazards that a rail that is passing by posed to passengers, to pedestrians, to those using vehicles, tricycles or bicycles. So to that extent, there is a liability on the Nigerian Railway Corporation on the one hand, and those that control the road. Last in this instance, in Abuja, FEMA, Federal Road Management Agency, they control most of the roads in Abuja. They have a duty to place signals, red lights, barriers on the approach to the railway crossing. It's a duty on the two of them, and anybody who gets injured or killed can even sue them. I think from a legal point of view, when injured passengers, relatives of those who have suffered death begin to sue these authorities and these operators and collect millions of money, they will sit up.
Okay. Now, let's take us. Let us take a look at what happened yesterday to one of our own, like I rightly said during the introduction.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you're privy to the video, or if you heard about the incident.
I heard about the incident.
Okay.
And it's really tragic.
This is really tragic. Yes,
Yeah.
I must say. But what would you, in your own opinion, do you think really happened? Because a lot of persons have different opinions about what they think happened in that instance. What do you think happened in that instance?
What I think happened with the clips and some of the newspaper reports I saw is that there were no warning signs that the train is coming. There were no signals that the train is coming, no red lights in those areas. There's no train barrier that will restrain a driver at the point where a train is coming. Yes, I know. The Nigerian Railway Act of 1955, you can see the date of the act. 1955 is colonial. It gives the rail operators right of way, and it puts the burden of care on the driver. Yes, but even so, there is a commensurate duty on those that operate the system to place signal, warnings and barriers, and those that control the road approaching it to place warnings and barrier. Yes, maybe as a road safety measure and as a rail safety measure, we should remind motorists, drivers, motorbikes that we have a duty of care to ourselves. We have a duty to also be careful as we approach railway crossing. But all said and done, the liability for what transpired yesterday is fair and square on FEMA and on Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Okay, now the proximity of railroads to residential buildings, it's if you look at some of our railways, you see a lot of residential buildings
Nearby.
very close to the rail.
Yeah.
Is this is this what should be? Or?
Oh no, I'm afraid no. On the proximity of buildings to railway lines and track, sometimes it is unfortunately a case of encroachment. Encroachment on railway land, because the railway land is supposed to be such that it gives sufficient room for operations and safety, and also not to restrain the sight line. The driver should be able to see, or the train driver should be able to see the sights very clearly, and buildings should not be nearby at all. Now, why do we have it these days like that? We have it these days because the train system have been in coma for the last 30, 35 years. So people get used to the fact that this train don't work. Just as people joke about the transformers don't work, people hug it because it don't work. So that's how they get used to staying by the railway track, because the rail lines don't run. So they encroach on it. Most of those buildings, I'm afraid, they are not authorized buildings. They are not authorized structures, because they are encroaching on railway land. Notwithstanding, the railway system or the railway corporation have what is called a right of way. And that right of way is usually on lands designated as a railway line. Let me quickly add, the railway is one of the biggest owner of land in Nigeria, because when they designate a pathway as a railway land, even about 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters away, you shouldn't encroach on it. So when you're buying a building or a land or a farmland near a railway line, check the boundaries. Most times, people innocently, negligently, or even maliciously encroach on railway lines.
And nothing is done about it.
Yes, sadly nothing is done about it, but there are cases where the Nigerian Railway Corporation are now enforcing their right of way and asking people to either remove their land, remove their houses, remove their farms, or demolish it, or move away completely because it's trespass anyway. So Nigerian Railway should do more enlightenment on that, so that people remember that they're encroaching on their land. Also, it is to enhance safety awareness and safety consciousness that staying close, building close is dangerous, not just for human beings, but even for their livestock. You have cases where livestock stray, pets stray, dogs, cows, goats, they stray on the pathway of the train, and it causes a lot of hazard, sometimes even to the train itself. So these are issues that I'm glad you're raising it. It helps the national conversation, and it also helps the policymakers to be guided as to where to focus their public enlightenment campaign, so that people know that these rail lines are now functional, they're operating, and people should stay clear of the land that are designated as railway land.
Are there no regulations protecting people living around the rail lines?
There are regulations. Okay. There are regulations protecting those living around the railway line. The Railway Corporation, they should try, first they must operate within a safe environment. They must operate their system in a safe way and in a safe manner. Safe way, safe manner means they must also take care of the environment and of those that live around. Yeah? Sometimes they are required to place barriers. Sometimes they are required to dig a ditch to prevent people just encroaching or walking straight into the railway line. Sometimes they are required to place signs telling you this is railway line, please stay clear, danger, trains approaching, and stuff like that. So they also have a duty of publicizing ways in which those that live nearby ought to be kept safe, besides just putting barriers. In some places, they erect fences to demarcate the land, to ensure that encroachment is limited. So yes, railways have their own internal regulations to ensure people don't just stray into their land, and to protect those around them, to protect those that they run through their farms, to protect those they run through their villages, to protect those who they run through their industries and their towns. Yes, they are, and those regulations ought to be enforced.
All right, let's take a breather here and go for a quick break. Not to worry, the program returns shortly. Stay with us.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Start Times Channel 101, Freak TV Channel 703, GSTV Channel 419, and Go TV Channel 46.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Today, and we are discussing safety around railways. And my guest is still Mani Ochuboju, a lawyer and a transport consultant. Now, before we went on break, you outlined a lot of things that should be done to ensure safety. And of course, you mentioned that there are regulations, but you rightly mentioned the 1955 Act.
Yeah.
Do you think is out of obsolete. Something should be done.
Yes, in context, a 1955 Act promulgated by our colonial masters, to a large extent, does not reflect the modern day realities of train operation. Even in their own country, the train industry have moved on. They don't operate by that 1955 Act that they give to us anymore. The train industry is now more responsive, or socially responsive, as you want to say, and not so in Nigeria, regrettably. So the issue of corporate social responsibility must be infused into it. And again, too, is also a legislative challenge to our legislators. That look at this act. This act is last century. It is indeed dated in many aspects. Look at a situation, okay, look at this situation we are dealing with today that happened in Abuja. The train operator is himself the regulator. Who would enforce these regulations properly? Who would enforce issues of negligence and complaints? So you are the regulator, you are the operator, you own the track. There is a conflict of interest there. So yes, that's a very good question you ask about how obsolete the 1955 Act is. You don't have it in England, America, or China, or India, in most countries that are advanced, where the operator of the railway is also the supervisor. You are the judge, you are the prosecutor in your own court. No, you have separate bodies that manage these aspects of rail operation. So to that extent, attempts that have been made so far to make these demarcations need to be pursued vigorously. I know there have been acts in the National Assembly to update this 1955 Act, but so far it's still being amended here and there. So to a large extent, it's a legal challenge to our legislators and to people like us who take railway safety, railway operations very seriously, to keep pushing it. And folks like you in the media who are very, very socially conscious, raising these kind of issues, to continue to bring it to the fore so that we'll have a modern railway system.
Yes, Mani, the former Minister of Transport, Rotimi Amaechi, mentioned some time ago, about the building of perimeter fencing. How urgent do we need this perimeter fencing? Because earlier on you mentioned building of fences around the railways.
Yes,
so
railways.
How urgent do we need this perimeter fencing?
I'll say it is as urgent as life and death, because we're talking about, yes, we're talking about issues of safety and security, issues of the loss of life. Railway incidents. Look at the figures you reeled out. In Lagos, 18 dead, 4 dead, 3 dead, 2018, 2019, 20. These are the ones that are recorded. What about the ones happening in maybe Takbe area, and some villages in Warri, some villages in Kaduna that you don't know of, that don't come to the fore? You know, so these things are happening, and we need to act immediately, because we lost one precious life yesterday. That is one precious life too many to lose in railway operations. It is not worth anybody's blood. I think we need to take the issue of perimeter fencing very, very, very seriously. The issue of the right of way of railway lines very, very seriously. And I agree with Rotimi, Minister Rotimi Amaechi, as he was.
Okay, you've mentioned a lot of things that is not in place from our discussion so far. What are the safety precautions that Nigerians should take to avoid these kinds of deaths, especially around our railways?
I think we may even start with, I'm afraid I may bring my former colleagues here, Federal Road Safety Commission, Oh yes, I work with them. So my colleagues, Federal Road Safety Commission or Federal Road Safety Corps should come in here and do more enlightenment. They should not leave it to Nigerian Railway Corporation. They should not leave it to FEMA or to those that manage the roads around railway crossing. There need to be an increased public enlightenment and awareness of the extreme hazard this railway trucks and trains pose. It's extreme. Any incident often leads to a loss of life or lives. If it was a bus yesterday, all the 15, 20 people in that bus would have gone. Where there are no loss of lives, there will be loss of limbs. You survive it, you'll be on crutches, on wheelchair for the rest of your life. And it impoverishes the quality of your life. So to that extent, safety awareness. And those that teach drivers, driving schools. Driving schools, I know railway crossing is something they just flip over because we didn't used to have railways. Driving schools should now make it mandatory that there should be special care of those learning to drive on how you cross railway lines. And those of us who are already drivers, this is a wake-up call. Because unfortunately we don't have signals. We don't have railway crossing notices. Lastly, those that manage the roads must place enough signals and alarms and devices to warn us that we are approaching a railway line. Not when the rail itself is coming, even before you get to it. You need that warning too. That you are, suppose you are driving within a neighborhood you don't know. I don't know Kubwa very well. And I consider myself a very good driver. It could have been any of us crossing there and you didn't know it's a railway line. Yeah, find some railway lines, when you're crossing, you may see the physical construction as you are approaching it. But often you're speeding anyway. And depending on the speed. So that brings us to the issue of speeding when we are driving. Even their own Railway Act, the 1955 one that we are criticizing, credit to it, says we should control our vehicle in such a way that when we approach a railway crossing, we should be able to stop. We don't have to stop when there's an emergency. So when you're driving, you should drive at a pace and a speed whereby you can readily stop when you approach a railway crossing or you see a railway coming. So that is also a responsibility on our own part as road users that we can keep in mind. I think it comes down to that simple Federal Road Safety Corps saying that speed kills. Speed kills. That we should reduce and manage our speed. If you reduce and manage your speed as a road user, whether you're on the motorbike, whether you're on a bicycle, whether you're on a tricycle, not to talk of a car, you manage and reduce your speed, a significant part of all the road incidents we experience will be reduced. I use the word incident because I don't use the word accident. Accident is a Nigerian kind of mentality where we think it's fatalistic. Oh my God, the devil did it or something did it. No. It puts the responsibility of anything that happened to you on the road, to a large extent, on you, the driver, or the road users, or the passengers in the vehicle. If the passengers are telling the driver, come on, hurry up, this is Christmas, well, whatever happens is an incident, it's not an accident. That's one way of looking at it.
Thank you very much, Mani. Well, that's it on Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Mani Ochuwoju. Mani is a lawyer and a transport consultant. Thank you very much for the insight.
Thank you very much.
And to our viewer, thank you for being there and keeping tab with the program every weekday by 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch these and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am your carrier, Clinton. Once again, thank you for being there. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.